We live in a society where it's not perfect, but we're at least blessed to make our own decisions about our life and how we choose to live it. Now, remember back in second grade when your teacher said with great learning comes great responsibility? I have the advice in this video that tells you whether or not you should be having sex before marriage. Lots of great learning that can be applied to your morals, your life, and your soul. And that can definitely impact how you live your life and what type of life you live and how successful your life will turn out. But when you have that great learning, you have to make a decision as a man or a woman what is best for you and your future and your life and your soul. If you stay lukewarm in a situation and you don't choose one side and you just fuck around and don't put too much thought into it and you just mess around with a lot of other people, you're going to end up with lukewarm results. You're not going to get amazing and satisfying results like you would if you just chose one thing with 2 feet in. You have to be clear with yourself on how you feel about the situation. Now, if you choose to have sex before marriage, do it with 2 feet in and make sure you're honest to your romantic partners. Now, if you choose not to have sex before marriage, then you have to do it with 2 feet in too, and you have to make sure you stay true to yourself. Staying lukewarm and in between is the worst thing you can do for yourself, and you're gonna end up with an unsatisfying love life. Don't do something you know is wrong deep down. You'll just end up feeling worse about the situation and you'll feel weak and unfulfilled in the end. You have to choose one or the other with 2 feet in. Now, let's go back to before you had sex, or if you haven't had sex yet. You had no idea what it would feel like, right? The only reason you honestly wanted to experience it was because you've never experienced it before. And society and your friends and basically everyone out there painted it as something magical and amazing and cool. And for a lot of you people out there who have had it, you probably realize that honestly, it's not all it's meant to be. Especially after your first time. It's very normal for people to have an awkward first time. When you fall down the path of wanting to have sex before you've even had it, it's honestly not your fault. It's because our culture and our society is so accepting of hookup culture and of premarital sex. When you fall down the path of having sex, especially for someone who isn't really that special, you realize it's really not all it's meant to be. And not only that, you crave more and more of it, and you crave better and better sex. It also boosts people's self-confidence, especially for men. You can honestly get to a point too where you need it so much and you depend on it so much that it's pretty much a drug addiction at that point. You're dependent upon a physical feeling that is only temporary and something that won't fill that hole in your heart over what a true love story should be like and what a true romance should be like. And not only that too, the more and more you have sex out there with someone who is different, the more and more your chances go up of you feeling unsatisfied with who you end up marrying. And the more and more likely you'll end up divorcing that person too. I'm not even looking at it from a religious perspective. I'm just stating what will happen and how you will feel in the end. But you can say that most religions out there pretty much say you can't have sex before marriage. One of the other biggest disadvantages as to having sex before marriage, and this mostly applies to men too, is that you lose yourself and you lose your passions. What I mean by this is that the more and more you masturbate and the more and more you have sex, the more and more you go looking for that temporary dopamine. The more and more you spend more time and energy looking for sex and looking for masturbation and that release. And when you go looking for it more and more and more, that actually wastes even more time and energy because you're willing to spend more of it on looking for sex, looking for masturbation. And that's precious time and energy that you could have honestly used on like your fitness, your health, your goals, your business, like literally anything else out there. You settle for complacency and you show yourself you're not mentally strong enough to hold off onto having sex until marriage. And to me, honestly, that's one of the most dangerous things out there about having sex before marriage. And that complacency carries on to other areas of life as well. You're complacent and you settle for the next best thing you can get as you get older and older. I think it's a much better investment to spend all that energy you're wasting on worthless hookups and on masturbation on more important and more meaningful things to your life, like your fitness, your health, your dreams, your goals, your ambitions, like anything else rather than just lust. If you make that smart investment in yourself, you are going to meet many amazing people. And who you end up marrying is probably going to be among all those amazing people. Don't worry, your time will come. You just have to be patient. And patience is a strong virtue that is not practiced enough nowadays. So might as well start now. It makes sense. If you want complacency and you want lukewarm results in your life, then you do complacent things and you do lukewarm things in order to get those type of results. But if you see the bigger picture of things and you endure and you persevere and you do amazing things in your life, you're going to end up with amazing rewards in your life too. That's just how the universe works. It just makes sense. People in our society think it's lame or uncool to be a virgin. I think it's one of the coolest things out there and one of the dopest things too. You're literally more pure to yourself. So don't get influenced by that toxic side of society who envy people who just sleep with many others. If you do that and you follow that path, then I promise at the end of the day, you're gonna feel like shit. In my opinion, when you do have sex with someone else, I almost see it as you basically being married to that person. Let me explain. When you do have sex with someone else, you share such strong and intimate feelings with that person, and there is a big emotional connection during it. And you're probably thinking that this applies more towards girls, and you're right, it does. But don't be fooled. This heavily applies towards men as well. For women, they feel such an attachment during it is because they literally let them in, and hormones associated with bonding, loyalty, and trust are sent into the woman's body during it. It literally makes so much sense as to why the woman's so attached. And when you share that with someone you don't truly trust or you don't truly understand, you can see how it can be a pretty much recipe for disaster. Men can be sensitive too. Maybe not as flat out and right away as a woman, but a man's hormones work in a way where he feels validated after he has sex with that woman. And a man wants to feel validated too, right? You want to feel validated again and again and again. That's how a man associates such strong personal feelings with the woman he has had sex with. But if a man does that for someone else he can't trust, that's a whole nother recipe for disaster. That's why so many men fall down the bad path of staying unfaithful and cutting off all emotional ties to women and sleeping with whatever woman he can. If a man does that, if you do that, you will end up feeling like shit at the end of the day, and you'll eventually overthink about a woman you want to be with, right? And we all know how that goes. That's a total recipe for disaster. And he ends up fucking up someone else's view about love in the whole process too. It's literally a whole pile of recipes of disasters. It's pretty complicated, right? But you wouldn't have wasted any of your precious time or energy on any of that drama or on any other worthless hookups if you had just stayed devoted to not having sex before marriage. And honestly, at the end of the day, nobody out there is perfect, man. As long as you use your good knowledge and you use your good judgment and you just use a good head on your shoulders and you keep bettering yourself and you do what you know is right in your heart, then don't worry, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna end up being good. It's not an overnight or easy fix or anything like that. It's gonna take time and it's gonna take patience. But don't worry, it's not impossible. There are plenty of people throughout history and even people alive today who have just waited until they found that special someone and someone they've married to have sex. And if you've already had sex, then so what? You can still choose to hold off on sex before marriage, and you can still choose to find yourself first and who you're meant to be with. Finding yourself and who you're meant to be with is way more important than just having sex before marriage, which is honestly what you should be doing. With great knowledge comes great responsibility. And if you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe you're strong enough to do it, then don't worry. I believe in you and I believe you can do it no matter what. And don't worry, don't be too hard on yourself about this. Setbacks happen. You're not gonna have perfection immediately. You're gonna work towards that perfection. That's how it's always gonna be. This is a gradual process and something that takes time, as long as you're always working towards bettering yourself and walking down that better path. Go ahead and give this video a like. Go ahead and comment down below if you think it's okay to have sex before marriage or if it's not okay to have sex before marriage and why. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe so you can see other amazing videos like this and have good discussions as well. And be safe.